everyone. I'm Roxanne Makashjan, and I'm happy to host this Armenian National Committee San Francisco Bay Area chapter live town hall meeting with Congressmember Jackie Speier. Jackie Speier is the representative for District 12, which covers San Mateo and parts of San Francisco, but she's also the representative for all Armenian Americans because she's an Armenian American herself, and she's the co-chair of the Armenian Issues Caucus in Congress. Congressmember Speier has been a staunch fighter on behalf of so many groups, constituents. She fights for women's rights. She fights for LGBTQ rights, all disenfranchised groups. She has dedicated her life to also trying to eliminate government waste and corruption and to strengthening our national security and our economy. She serves on several important committees connected to the military, intelligence, women's issues, gun violence. She's a San Francisco native who's been active in politics since she was a teenager, and she's given herself way beyond the call of duty during all that time. She very thankfully escaped near death and survived years of very difficult recovery after traveling to the People's Temple in Guyana with Congressman Leo Ryan, who he himself was murdered there. She has bounced back from that and other personal tragedies very heroically and undaunted, the beautiful word she uses in the title of her book, which I personally recommend to everybody as a wonderful inspiration and motivation for our work and for our relationships, our lives in general. Congressmember Speier has been, before being in Congress, the county supervisor, assembly member, state senator, and now she's been in Congress since 2008. And as Americans and as Armenians, we've been very proud of her public service. She has championed the cause of strengthening Armenia and its ties with the United States and California, including boosting humanitarian aid, economic and diplomatic ties with the U.S., and justice for the Armenian cause and the Armenian genocide recognition. Congressmember Speier, thank you for making yourself available to our community. I want to remind everybody our Facebook Live Town Hall goes until 6:30, and we welcome your comments and your questions on the Facebook page. Welcome again, Congressmember Speier. Are you and your family safe at this time?
We are. Thank you for asking, and I hope that everyone on the call is as well. I hope you're also really being very serious about the physical distancing, because that is making a huge difference in our ability to not have this spike that everyone's been talking about in New York. We are looking at having a bump instead of a spike because of the social distancing that we put into place almost 4 weeks ago. In fact, it's just about 4 weeks that we've been under this shelter in place or stay at home. I don't know about you, but I have found all kinds of things to occupy my time. I'm going through boxes of stuff that's been sitting around. I'm cleaning all the areas that I never clean. So it's been a very good time to be home with my husband and our dog, and to reflect on how lucky we all are that we are healthy, and pray for those who are not.
Thank you. Yeah, I have the cleaning bug at my house too. Although my husband was very quick to show me a New York Times article that says, "Don't worry if you're not being very productive these days." So let's get right to the subject at hand. What would you like viewers to know about the federal government's response so far to the pandemic, both in terms of the healthcare issues and also, the economic impact it's having? I hope you were able to hear me. Maybe not.
There, you're back. You're back.
Okay. I don't know how much you heard of my question. I was asking, what would you like viewers to understand? Okay.
So it is remarkable what we have done in very short order. $2 trillion has already been authorized by the Congress of the United States and signed by the president. To put it in perspective, We spend about $1.4 trillion a year in the budget in discretionary expenditures. So what normally takes us a whole year to go through and make adjustments to, we did in very short order. And $2 trillion is not enough. So we will, in all likelihood, be passing a third CARES Act, which will be providing more money for small businesses. We provided $3.70 billion. The interest and the expectations were far exceeded in terms of those small businesses that would seek the assistance. And there's some really wonderful programs that have been created that provide for forgiveness of part of the loan if you maintain your employees in their salaried positions, and also outright grants of up to $10,000 if you were to apply for what's called an EIDL loan, which is an emergency disaster loan. So $370 billion already committed. We're looking at committing another $250 billion. Lots of my constituents have been frustrated by the process because their banks have been reluctant to take their applications if they weren't existing customers, and even if they were existing customers. So that's one issue. Everyone is concerned about the $600 that they're going to get on top of unemployment through the state. We're processing that, and the $1,200 grant for those making under $75,000 a year, and that goes to everyone, including senior citizens. And if you're a couple, it's $150,000 as a limit, and that would be $2,400 plus $500 per child. So it's an effort to try and provide a bridge to what is a very extraordinarily difficult time for so many people.
And do we expect that, since it's still very unclear how long this will continue?
Roxanne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just froze for a moment.
Okay. Do we expect that these things, since it's so uncertain how long this is all going to take, do we think each of these relief efforts could possibly be extended, whether it's unemployment, whether it's rent and mortgage relief, whether it's student loans, all of those?
I think there's a high likelihood that they can be. Now, the unemployment has already been expanded to 39 weeks, so that's significant. The actual $600 additional funding per week that you're getting as a result of the federal commitment will last for, I believe it's four months. I'm getting a little help over here, 4 months. And then the forgiveness on loans is something we'll have to wait and see. In terms of not having to pay your property taxes right now, San Francisco, San Mateo County have extended that to May 5th. You don't have to pay. Lots of mortgagors now are allowing you to postpone payments of your mortgages, typically tacking it on to the end of your mortgage. It's not like it's forgiven. And then student loans, there's been a freezing of your student loan payments being required. So we're doing everything within our power to make life a little bit easier, but for many people, it's still very difficult.
Yes. You mentioned specific relief relating to San Francisco and San Mateo. Is there anything else you'd like to inform our viewers about as far as specific resources available locally here for individuals and small business owners, and your office in particular, if there's any information or outreach efforts there?
So both counties have specific programs that they've created and seeded. San Mateo County has created San Mateo County Strong. San Francisco has one called, I believe, San Francisco Cares. San Mateo County has seeded it with $3 million that the county supervisors have put in it. It's been augmented by Gilead, which has put another $1 million in. There's been people that have just contributed to it. That money will be made available to people who are having difficulty paying rent, or if they're a small business, their late fees associated with paying their rent, or if they need additional loans beyond which they can get through the Small Business Administration. San Francisco has a similar program.
Wonderful. Turning towards all of the wonderful work you do for Armenia and for Artsakh, can you update us on anything related to that right now? And then specifically, there's been some discussion, and I know the ANC has sent a letter to administration officials about possibly getting funding that's already been allocated to redirected towards helping Armenia meet its COVID challenges, or maybe a new funding measure. Tell us about that.
So we have, in fact, already committed over $1 million to Armenia in an effort to help with the testing and creating platforms and providing technical assistance as they start to test the individuals. There have been about, I think, close to 1,000 people who have tested positive for COVID-19 in Armenia, and there have been about 10 deaths. So the shelter-in-place requirement that was put in place is actually very good. I give the Prime Minister kudos for doing that, and for his health minister as well. I would also say that the effort to want to redirect some of the $40 million that I was able to get into the budget for this fiscal year is something that we will certainly pursue, and it makes all the sense in the world when you're in a pandemic like this. What's the most urgent need? The urgent need is to provide care to those who are sick, to prevent those from getting sick, and certainly to test those who may or may not be exposed. Everyone should also know that there's about 25 to 30% of the population that when they're tested, they were asymptomatic, meaning they didn't have any of the symptoms for this horrific virus, and yet they actually had it, but they were asymptomatic. So on the one hand, that's good for them because they didn't have the grueling symptoms associated with it. But the bad part is that they could have, in fact, created an environment where 3 people were infected just for them being around them. So it's very important for us to use a mask when we're outside, whether you're walking your dog or coming in contact with people at the grocery store. Create your own mask. I've been using scarves and wrapping it around my face and nose so that you want to prevent others from maybe becoming infected by virtue of you having it and you not even knowing it. Wear gloves if you have them when you go to the grocery store. Wipe down everything with a Clorox wipe when you bring it into the house, and wash the fruit with soap and water. Soap and water is your friend. For all those who are concerned about the fact that they don't have hand sanitizers, you don't need hand sanitizers. Really, soap and water is the best. 20 seconds, and make sure you scrub your thumb and get into your in between your fingers.
I heard if you sing Happy Birthday twice, it's
right.
20 seconds. Although I could only handle doing that once, and I'm like, I can't sing this song every time I'm washing my hands.
Or you can count to 20, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3.
Yeah. That's easier for me. And speaking of the medical aspect of this, any new information about prevention? Well, you talked about prevention, but I'm talking maybe regarding vaccine, treatments, etc.
You know, I was just talking to the Armenian ambassador to the United States this afternoon, and there is a scientist at MIT who has a potential vaccine, and he is about to, I guess, be approved for clinical phase 1 trials in the clinic setting. So, you know, in the end, we may be very proud of yet another Armenian who has done good for the world.
I read about that, made me very proud. So yeah, I hope so. It looks like everything's fast tracked, and I know that in your region there's so many labs and so forth. There's a lot of activity, a lot of racing to the cure kind of thing here.
Yes, there's a lot of testing, new platforms created by companies in the district. Gilead has a a drug that they are attempting to be able to use with what's called emergency authorization use, emergency use authorization, that is not a vaccine, but can in fact make the symptoms more reduced, or the length of time that you are sick with the illness lessen. So there's lots out there. And we're also looking at a clinical trial at Stanford where they want to look at whether or not you have within you the cells that make you immune to the disease. And if you do, then how we can either use you in some setting to develop the vaccine or allow you to go back to work because you are immune.
Wow. Well, some questions have come in. Do you want to get them?
Great.
Khachik Tazian asks, given that different regions are going to peak at different times, with a likely peak in mid-May for California, is there an alternate plan to a complete stay-at-home policy where the higher risk population is protected by staying home while the younger working population goes back to work, having been tested and cleared? This is similar to what you were referring to. How far are we, do you think, from getting to that place?
I think we're a ways away. I think we've got another 2 weeks for sure that we will be sheltering in place. What's interesting here in California, of those who've been tested, and we're way behind in testing. We've tested a very small percentage of the population, but those that have been tested, about 50% are under the age of 45 that have tested positive. So while it's the most dangerous for an older population, it's not as if a younger population doesn't contract the virus. They do. So I think we just need to be very vigilant. And as we do go back to work, we're probably going to be wearing masks for a period of time. Hopefully we can use the Defense Production Act, which the president has been reluctant to use, and really get companies around the country to be producing what's called personal protective equipment, PPE. I mean, the thought that we have healthcare providers right now on the front lines who have to reuse their masks or are running out of gowns and putting their lives at risk on top of trying to save the lives of others is just wrong. And I want to I've been spending so much time trying to buy masks. I actually spent money to buy, out of my campaign, to buy thousands of masks so that they could be given to hospitals in the district who were running low on surgical masks.
I think a lot of people are very, very surprised that we weren't more prepared in every way for this. A question about a follow-up question about testing from Rosalind Minasian is there going to be a bigger effort or funding, if necessary, for more testing in more states more rapidly?
Yes, we have to do more testing. The president has been reluctant because he doesn't want to see the numbers go up, but we have to test in order to identify the universe of people that have it or were asymptomatic for it and are now no longer going to be in need of sheltering in place. So we really blew it on the front end by not testing earlier to contain it. On the back end now, we're going to have to do extensive testing in order to let people go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Judy Jingirian asks, going back to the small business and finances, she says, I'm an accountant and have clients who have filed for unemployment and can't seem to connect with the EDD. Is there a way to call in? I know the wait time will be long, but they are very frustrated and as they applied and can't get access. What is their best option right now on how to connect to their unemployment?
Well, there is an effort by the state of California to speed up the payments of unemployment. What Andrew Cuomo has done in New York is what I think that our great Governor Gavin Newsom should do, which is front load the monies, knowing that he's going to see the $600 per person per week, to just take it out of the state coffers right now and then be reimbursed so that people can have some level of relief. Because right now it is very painful for so many who, live from paycheck to paycheck and who have little more than $400 in savings for emergencies.
Right. The freelancers, the daily hires, they're right.
Yelp is going to lay off 1,000 people just a few minutes ago. So it's happening everywhere. And we need to be respectful of the fact that these are hardworking Americans that haven't done anything wrong here. And that's what government's about. When you have something of this nature, whether it's a hurricane, an earthquake, a pandemic, that's what government is for, to be able to lift all of us up again.
And maybe that's a silver lining, is reminding people that government
there is a role for government, yes.
Yeah. Krikor Deraprahamian asks about the funding for individuals that that Congress approved, and whether there's an effort to ensure that these funds really get to the people. I know that I heard over and over again on the news that the monies will be direct deposited into people's accounts, but I think so many people don't have direct deposit, and that part was never explained. Okay, what's going to happen with them? So
let me answer that. I'm not a direct depositor either. I want to see the check if I get a refund from the IRS. I don't know why. Kick myself. So there's about 60 million checks that are going out next week to people who are in a direct deposit relationship as it relates to their tax returns. The following week, there is going to be another wave go out to Social Security recipients who have direct deposit. If you don't fall in either of those categories, there is a portal that's being created at the U.S. Treasury website, and you can go to that portal, put in your information for a direct deposit, and that will speed up the means by which you will get your initial $1,200 check per person and the $500 per child.
Fantastic. But switching back to Armenia, imagine a world where the pandemic is over. We're going back and forth again. We're considering new ways to strengthen the ties. What are you envisioning for the future?
So, this was a remarkable year for us when you think about it, this fiscal year. Not only were we able to get an additional $40 million to Armenia, when in fact, historically, we've been seeing 25, woefully inadequate. I wanted to be more than 40 million. Hopefully next year it will be in this next budget process. We both know how phenomenal it was to get the House and the Senate to pass the resolution condemning the genocide and identifying Turkey as being responsible for it. And I think moving forward, we want to do everything we possibly can to empower the democratic government and the remarkable new administration. When I was there, I was blown away by the youthfulness and the talent that exists in Armenia, in the not just in the electorate, but in those that have been elected to the National Assembly, and the leadership that the Prime Minister has put in place. And I think his secret weapon is his wife. I think Anna is really a remarkable woman in her own right.
Yeah. Well, a week before shelter in place was announced in the Bay Area, was when we decided we were going to cancel our Bay Area Armenian National Committee's annual High Tide evening, and you were going to be our special guest. And we were going to have a huge community celebration about the Armenian genocide resolution. I'm hoping we're still going to plan to do that and you'll be with us.
Of course, I wouldn't miss it. I will say, though, that one of my greatest recollections of this, of probably my time in Congress, was walking into the auditorium at the school and having all of those children there and being able to make the case to them that you never, ever give up. And then they presented me with this incredible photograph of them jumping for joy. And in the background was the boat on the House floor when it passed. And to see these young people imprinted with success like that is wonderful. But it's a great message too, and lesson about how you don't give up.
Yeah, and you're a perfect representation of that for sure, Congressmember. Before we close, we're almost time to close. I wanted to remind, and I know you'll join me in reminding all of our Armenian American viewers that it's really important that they fill out their census survey and that they check off the box that says they're some other race and they write in Armenian, because it's very important. The ANC feels it's very important that we let the government know that we're here and what our numbers are, so they can have a very clear demographic of the different ethnic groups in the country. So for all of those who want more information about why that's so important, fill out your census and write that you're Armenian. You can go to the ANC website. You can go right here on this Facebook page. You can call us. I also want to let everybody know that we will be commemorating April 24th, the Armenian Genocide commemoration. It's going to be an online commemoration on April 24th. And we believe it's very important for our community to come together, whether it's virtually, but we want to feel like we're there together, remembering together and recommitting ourselves to the cause. Any last words?
Well, thank you for making the pitch for the census, because beyond wanting to identify how many there are of us in the United States, we want to make sure that we identify everyone in California, because we're not the best when it comes to what's called an undercount. And when you are undercounted, that means there's less federal dollars formulaically that come to California. So it's really important. It's a very simple little form to fill out. You can do it online. It takes really a couple of minutes. And I just encourage everyone to do it. That is showing that you are an American and that you're also an Armenian American.
That's right. Very well said. Thank you again, Congresswoman. We wish you all the best, and thank you for all the work you're continuing to do.
Well, it's a privilege to do it. And the work I do on behalf of the Armenians, both here in this country and in our homeland, continue to be a high priority for me.
Thank you. Kisher Pari Amem Mart. Good night.
Good night.